Okay, welcome back to another vid. Really sorry for not making a video for about a month and a half-ish, there or thereabouts. It's been a long time, I know, and it's funny because on pretty much every single video that I make these days, I always start with a stupid old line of, sorry I've been busy and lazy. It's the same old thing, but it's true. And I think I say that bit as well, every video, but it's true. But it really is, it's ridiculous. But I've got to stop being lazy. Really, to be honest, I can't stop being busy. Well, I can pack my job in, but then that's probably not the best thing to do. Maybe get another one. We'll see. So yeah, this is going to be a pickups vid, and also probably, I guess it depends, but maybe before this vid, I guess you'll find out, or after it, I'll also upload a vinyl vid, because who doesn't like music? Who doesn't like music? Everybody does. If you don't, that's weird, and you should. So pickup video, I've got Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360 and a Sega Saturn game, and a new console, or a handheld. Kind of. Well, no, it is kind of. It's not the Switch, by the way. Definitely not the Switch. I say definitely not. I do kind of want one, but I'm going a little bit cold on it at the moment. I just don't feel there's enough out for it. You know, basically there's Zelda, and that's about it. You know, I was even looking at that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Is it Puyo Puyo Tetris? I can pronounce the Tetris bit. I'm just not sure the first bit. And that's... The funny thing is with that is it's also coming out on the PS4 and the Xbox One, but it's $10 cheaper on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One than the Switch. I don't understand. If it was the other way around, I'd be more inclined to get it on the Switch. But it doesn't make a great deal of sense to me. And then you've got the new Mario Kart game coming out in a month or two, whenever that is. Is it next month, April? I think so. But basically, isn't it just a rehashed version of the Wii U game? In which case, is it really that necessary? Then you've got the Street Fighter 2 game coming out, which does look pretty good, but there's so many Street Fighter games out that this version's probably already out on another system. I'm sure it is, but... So yeah, I'm a little bit on the fence. Now, I did have, believe it or not, some of you do know this because we've talked about it, and I've put it on Twitter, like in the past, but I did pre-order a Switch, and I did that because what I didn't want to do was not pre-order it and then really want to get it at launch or near launch and have to pay way over the odds on eBay, because it always goes on eBay, doesn't it, for like twice the price. So I did pre-order it, and then around about a week before it was due to come out, I did cancel the pre-order. And I'm not going to lie, ultimately I'm pleased, because I know, as I say, there's not enough for it, not enough games out for it right now, for me personally. For anyone, really. Just Zelda, like I say, and that's pretty much it. But at the same time, with it being so close to the release date where I cancelled it, when I watched everyone else on YouTube and on Twitter and people I know just talking about it, unboxings, there's always thousands of unboxings in there on YouTube, but I don't mind. I like to watch people do that. I did have a little tinge of regret. I've got to be honest. I thought, why didn't I just go ahead and just, keep the pre-order? But ultimately, once all is said and done, I am relieved that I didn't, because it's a lot of money for a system, or a handheld system, whatever you want to call it, where right now, as I keep saying, there's not many games out for it. But I do want to get one eventually, if it proves to be a success. But I think waiting, for me, is, at least for me anyways, is the best thing to do. And, maybe in 3 or 4 months, I'll address the situation and possibly may pick one up then. Wait and see, I'll have one next month now on a pickup vid, Switch special, unboxing. So, yeah, one of these games in fact, actually 2 of them I've not played, and I don't really like to do this, where I'll show a game and not talk about it, but it could be some time before I really sit down and play it properly. When I say I've not played it, I've put it on for like 10 minutes, but it's obviously not enough. In fact, let's start with that game, and that's on the Sega Saturn, PAL game, of course, and it's called Blast Chamber. I love these boxes. I love the Sega Saturn PAL boxes. I know they fall apart really easily, and I don't love that part of it, but I just think they look cool. I really do. Now, I much prefer the later released kind of rounded plastic cases. They look good, they kind of feel good, they don't break as easily, or at all, really. They're really durable. But these early ones, which are just put up, together with a little bit of glue, I can't even bloody open it, there we go. These things kind of like fall off. You can see it falling off there, actually, at the top. Can you? Or maybe not. Maybe that's the instruction manual I saw. Either way, yeah, the boxes are pretty rubbish, but I've got a soft spot for the Saturn. I really like it. Obviously, I prefer the PlayStation, and I didn't get a Saturn until like late '97 when I was working at Electronics Boutique. And basically, I think my fondness for it, for the Sega Saturn, comes as a result of working at Electronics Boutique. And hardly anyone ever, I've said this before, but hardly anyone ever bought any games for it. It was sitting there, all the games, the systems. Every now and again, of course, someone would come in and have a look or maybe buy one. But in comparison to the PlayStation and then the N64, this just nobody was buying them. It was crazy. And so I started to feel sorry for it. And I took one home one day from work. You could borrow stuff. I think I returned it. But yeah, and I again borrowed a few games, borrowed a few games. And I really liked it. It didn't compete with the PlayStation 1, but I really did develop a fondness for the Sega Saturn, and that stuck with me, and it always will. So another game to add to the collection, if you want to call it a collection, I've probably got around about 30-something. It's slightly pitiful, but I do enjoy chipping away at the Sega Saturn. I do enjoy chipping away at the, I hesitate to say collection. I'm not going for a full collection, by the way. I'm not going for a full set. But at the same time, I'm happy to pick one up that I haven't got every now and again. So, make of that what you will. So that's that one. Now, next up on the PlayStation 3, I picked this up on the PlayStation 3 because, well, two reasons. One, I'm in a bit of a PS3 mood, or have been recently. So whenever that happens to me, I tend to favour that platform, say, over the 360, although I do have a 360 game. But the main reason really on this one is because it comes with a PlayStation 3 exclusive map, if you like, or challenge maps, it says. Anyway, that game is called Batman Arkham Asylum, and the PS3 exclusive is you can play as the Joker. I can't even bloody see because of the glare, and you don't care. But you can play as the Joker on the PlayStation 3 version, so I think that's kind of really cool. I think that's really good, and it comes with all the stickers. Not that I'm going to use them at my age. But still, nonetheless, it's good to have it all complete. So pleased to have Arkham Asylum. It is a game that I did start to play going back whenever it came out. I'm going to guess 2008? I have to have a look, aren't I? 2009. Okay, so 2009 then. But yeah, I did play it around about that time, and it was probably on the pickups vid. Maybe not 2009, probably like 2010 or so, I reckon. But I'm not about to traipse through all of my old vids to find it. It would be pointless. Okay, what should we show? Let's show the Xbox 360 game. Now, I've not played this at all. I briefly played the Blast Chamber on the Saturn. It's a bit weird, by the way. I didn't really talk about the game. It's a little bit odd. The graphics are a little bit dodgy. And but maybe I'll talk more about it in the future once I've played it. I like the concept of it. I do like the concept of Blast Chamber. It's interesting. This one I haven't played. I've not played it at all. It's funny because this one cost me $2, so that's around about £1.20, something like that. So I couldn't turn it down. But I almost turned it down because I really do want to get either the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4 version because it's been released, the definitive edition, or definitive version, however it's called, on the modern system. But do you know what? I thought, for the sake of $2, is the old version on the 360 going to look that bad? Is it really? I don't think it is. So I'm going to be happy to get stuck into this. I really like the fact that it's very stealth-driven, or can be. You can go through the entire game without killing anybody. And I really like the idea of that. I mean, it's probably going to take hours to complete. Days, maybe even longer than that. Because obviously you're going around the place very stealth-based, stealth-like. But I'm really curious to give that a try. You don't have to, of course. You can go through and just kill everybody. Anyway, that game is Dishonored. Like I say, on the 360. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to trying it. But I will still get the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4 version eventually. Because I am a little bit of a graphics whore. I've got to be honest, even at my age. I do want to get the best version. But I'm not a snob, hence getting this. I will play this. But I do want to see, I'm curious to see how much it's improved for the modern version. Okay, next up is a game that only arrived yesterday. So again, have hardly played it. Maybe 15 minutes I stuck this on for. Had fun with it. And speaking of Electronics Boutique, it's another game that reminds me of that era. I think it came out, let's check again, I'm going to guess at 97 or 98. Yeah, it came out in 1997, which is, I was working there in 97 and 98. So, and I do remember it being played on the big TVs there. and I remember seeing it on the shelf and people buying it. It's not a massive game. Once I show you this, you're not going to be like, that's the greatest game ever. You may not even have heard of it, but it's called Overboard. But it's one I've always wanted to own. It's one I played when I worked at EB, just on the, what do you call them things, like the booths that have the system set up, and I played it around the back, and I borrowed a copy and we took it home and all that kind of stuff. But this is the first time that I've owned it. Now, I did know that there was a little bit of damage down the bottom of the case there, but it's a PS1 game, and you can just change these cases really easily, very easily interchangeable, so that's not a problem. I bought this, much like I did with the PAL Blast Chamber on the Sega Saturn, bought it in America on eBay.com, and that's what I tend to do a lot these days. Unless it's a game that I really desperately want, then I'll wait for it to come onto eBay.com. Even a PAL version, they do eventually come on. But if it's something I really want, for example, I really want to get soon, I really want to buy Discworld. I used to have it back in 96 or so, and I really liked it. I thought it was really difficult, but I loved it. I thought it was a really good game, and I want to get it back. But it's too expensive right now. I can afford it. It's not a problem. And I can't afford to, be spending that kind of 50-odd quid every day on games. But I'm just kind of waiting. I'm waiting for either it to come down in price a little bit. I'm either waiting for it to come on eBay.com, or I'm waiting to, maybe just see it in a bundle or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I really want to get it. But there's no rush. Absolutely no rush. There's hundreds of games on the PS1 that I want. So yeah, Overboard, kind of based, it's kind of like a piracy kind of thing, sailing the seas, and yeah, it's fun. It's a bit of fun, and I enjoy it. Clearly don't know too much about it, hence why we're moving on quite rapidly, because I played it for 15 minutes, plus a little bit back in the day of 97, 98. Now, modern game, Sniper Elite 4 is what this one is, on the PlayStation 4. Now, I think I've got a gameplay of it as well. Bit random, but I had a gameplay vid of Sniper Elite 3 on the PlayStation 3. Best part of a couple of years ago when that came out, and I quite liked that. Now, to be honest, if you like the first game, it's pretty much identical. It really is. And what makes me laugh and a little bit annoyed is it's so identical that they've taken all the problems from the first game over to this one, which is just so slack. It really is. It's quite amateurish, really. For example, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea going online, but if you want to take this game online, you're either going to struggle to get a game because the lobbies aren't full, or you're going to struggle to get a game because the connection is awful. You're literally waiting there for 5, which doesn't sound a long time, but that's just an example, 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe more. And then it does what it did to me last night, which was so infuriating. Put me into a game after waiting for 15 minutes, and the game ended 2 seconds later because the game was literally just about to finish. So it put me into a game which was about to end with like 2 seconds left. Absolutely pointless. So that annoyed me, I've got to be honest. So like, the air turned blue. It really did. The other night, last night or the night before, whenever it was. So, but yeah, that aside, it's a decent game. It's the same old online. Nothing really appears to have changed from my limited playtime online so far. But I do like the campaign. The maps are really big, and but what I found, it's similar to another World War II game. What was that called? Enemy Front on the PlayStation 3, also out on the 360. And I think there was a bug in that game. I did talk about this about a year or two ago, where I made a massive kind of noise at the start of the level, or pretty much at the start of the level, by throwing grenades and shooting enemies. And it seemed as if all the enemies, and I'm not even exaggerating, all the enemies from the entire level came running over at once. So I killed them all, which took ages because there were so many of them. I kept thinking, where the bloody hell are they coming from? And then for the rest of the level, I'm not even joking, for about 20 odd minutes, I was walking through the rest of the level with no enemies anywhere, because it's like they all came over at the start of the map, or the start of the level. It was a really weird experience. I don't know if it was a bug, whether it's just a one-off, whether it's a problem that others have experienced. It was just freaky. And a similar thing happens to this, not as such, but there's periods of heavy activity where there's a lot going on, a lot of soldiers that are trying to kill you, and obviously you've got to kill them. And then there's a lot of nothingness, and then you go back. It's like rinse and repeat. And I'd rather it was a little bit more consistent. So for me, so far anyway, I'm quite early on in the game to be fair, but there's a lot of walking around with nobody about after you've killed people. So big vast areas with hardly anyone to kill. It seems a bit odd. But if you like Sniper Elite 3, it's the same game, so you're gonna like that one. I won't lie, I did what I said I don't like doing, and I don't do it as bad as... I'm not as bad now as what I used to be, but I did pay pretty much release price for this. Not $60, which is the recommended retail price, but it was like $48, but still, nearly $50. It's a lot of money. I wouldn't be surprised if already you can get that for like 30, 35, especially on eBay. No regrets. It is what it is. Now, Super Nintendo games. You'll be able to see, excuse me, behind me there right at the top, I've started to line up some of my SNES games. All PAL games. I do have a few American games as well, but it's just the PAL ones that you can see. And I've got 3 more here. Now, what I want to get eventually, because these shelves behind me, they work great for vinyl, as you can see as well, up there. There they are. And that looks good. That's pretty much what they're for. But if you want to use... If you've got like Blu-rays or DVDs and games, the best shelving to use that I've seen so far, that's been recommended by a few people, and I've seen it on YouTube vids and stuff before, it's the IKEA, which is what these are, but IKEA Billy bookcases, I think is what they're called. And these, like I say, are the Kallax. So Kallax is great if you've got vinyl, brilliant, I thoroughly recommend it. But if you want games, you're probably going to have to get the Billy bookcases. And you get like the glass doors on them if you want, or the glass windows, whatever it is. And they look pretty good. So maybe that's for the future. By the time the next few videos, roll out, that may have changed with those games up there. But just for now, they kind of fit. It's working for now, but we'll see. I did try to put them on the middle shelves, but because of the size of the Kallax shelving, there's big gaps. You can basically almost fit like 2 back to front. Oh, give it away. That was smooth, wasn't it? There you go. R-Type's the first one. What a knobhead. But yeah, it doesn't look right with the 2 games there. What a complete tool I was for doing that there. That's pretty funny. So anyway, let's move on. I was talking bollocks. R-Type, Super R-Type. I nearly called it Star Wars. It's been a while since I made a vid. Give me a break. So yeah, Super R-Type. Now, I put this on for the first time a couple of days ago. It just arrived this week. This is so hard. It's absolutely insane. But it's not infuriating. I think it's because... I don't know. It obviously must be the nostalgia. I really appreciate the old games, so I can see through the annoyance. I think I've gone through my annoyance with these games, back in the day when they came out. So yeah, side-scrolling shooter, honestly, balls hard. A really, really difficult game, but one that I'm really pleased to get. It wasn't particularly cheap. I think I got it for around about 40 quid, maybe a little bit more including shipping over to America. But yeah, really pleased to get it. And R-Type 2 and R-Type 3 are out on the Super Nintendo. Those are more expensive, but I will get them eventually. But you know what? There's no rush, because what's the point? You'd just be wasting money. I've just bought this. I really want it. I used to play it as a kid. I've got it back. I want to play it. I want to enjoy it. I don't necessarily have to finish it and complete the game before I get R-Type 2. But I do want to, get to grips with it and get my money's worth, really, and enjoy it and appreciate it. So, don't get me wrong, if I see R-Type 2, and 3 for that matter, ASAP, tomorrow, next week, next month, whenever, if I see them, the condition's brilliant, and the price is amazing, well, I'll get it. But I'm just not going to go out my way. I'm really happy going at quite a steady rate with the SNES. And I'm loving it, by the way. I've got to be honest. You can see it there. I've got quite a lot. I think there's around about 35 altogether, there or thereabouts, pushing 40, which is nice. And when I get to 50... I will do a collection vid. I know I said I was going to do it at Christmas. I lied. I'm sorry. But do you know what? The truth is I just didn't feel like I had enough. Since Christmas time, I've probably bought maybe in excess of 10, I reckon. So the collection video wouldn't have been that great. And I thought, let's just leave it until I get to a nice landmark. And I think a nice landmark will be 50. So when I get to 50 PAL SNES games, I will do a collection vid. I'll talk about the games, obviously, and tell you what I think. If I can remember, tell you how much I paid, how much they go for, and all that kind of stuff. But prices change. And not just do they change as the years go by, but they also change because it's very much dependent on how much you're prepared to pay. And there could be a bidding war and all that kind of stuff. So that's that. Now, the other game, which I think you saw anyway, a few seconds ago with my little faux pas there, was NBA Jam. By the way, these are all in really good condition. If you didn't hear me say in my last vid or my other previous pickup vid, I just simply do not buy. I simply don't buy a Super Nintendo game unless they're in at least 7 out of 10 condition. I know it's kind of subjective, but I'm pretty strict, so at least 7 out of 10. And I would like it complete. It's not absolutely essential, but it almost is. But at least 7 out of 10. I don't mind paying a bit more. Price isn't really a problem. Condition is paramount for me, really is. And this is in really good nick. So yeah, NBA Jam. Now, I've got to be honest, I've said this about a few games in recent videos where I've made a comparison between the SNES version and the Mega Drive version. I think, in my opinion, I'm going over old ground here, but in my opinion, Earthworm Jim is better on the SNES than the Mega Drive, just in my experience. But to even it up, I think, without question, Aladdin is far better on the Mega Drive than the Super Nintendo. I love it, don't get me wrong, on the SNES, but I just prefer it on the Mega Drive. It could be nostalgia, because I had my Mega Drive Aladdin pack in '93. That could be the reason why. I don't know. And this could be the reason why as well. But I prefer the Mega Drive version. I think really what you get with not just the Mega Drive version of this, but of most Mega Drive games, it looks a little bit grittier. They look a bit darker. They're more like kind of arcade-driven. And the Super Nintendo games are a little bit more colourful. They're just, which is nice. It's not a complaint. But it just loses a little bit, maybe, of its appeal, its charm, certainly in comparison to the arcade version. So I think the arcade versions, of this game at least, is much more suitable and comparable to the Mega Drive. But it's essentially the same game. Now, the one thing that I really don't like about this, and I've only just recently noticed after recently replaying it, having obviously bought it, and it seems as if when you shoot, whether it's a 2-pointer or whether it's a 3-pointer, I don't know what the formula is behind whether you score the points or not, whether you get the basket, the 2 points or the 3 points. It seems as if it's almost randomised. And I've got to be honest, I don't really like that. It takes away something. It makes you feel as if you're not in control. Now, I know you could say that about any game, really. But if we use something like this, which is very simplistic, you know, old school kind of controller, couple of buttons to kind of do something, it's just press a button. I don't even think it really matters how long you hold the button down for. I stand corrected on that. So it does seem as if it's random, but take something like a FIFA, a modern FIFA game on the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, excuse me, or a Pro Evolution Soccer. Those games, I'm sure there's some kind of randomness behind that formula of scoring a goal, but you do have much more control because you can choose how much power you want to put on. You can choose almost exactly, sometimes, where you want to put the ball, and it just seems as if you've got more of a choice. That it's down to you. Whereas something like this, you know, if the ball goes in through the hoop, it just seems as if it's not really down to you. It's down to you, of course, in the sense that you press the button with the aim to do that. But whether it goes in, it's not really determined by you. It seems as if it's determined by the computer. Does that make sense? I don't really like that. It seems as if you can be cheated because regularly I'll like go through 5 or 6 shots where it just doesn't go in. Every one just doesn't go in. And you're like, well, why? It doesn't make sense. Unless there's some kind of, like I say, hidden formula where maybe if you miss one, your fatigue goes down a little bit, and maybe it's like a confidence thing of the player, and then you're more likely to miss another until you maybe 4 or 5 other shots go by and you build it back up again. I don't know how it works, but I was a little bit uncomfortable with that. It sounds a little bit weird, I guess. And then last game, but I've got that handheld console-ish, which isn't the Switch, to show you. It's Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. Now, at my age, 22, all right, maybe not, late 30s, very late 30s, as late as you can get. At my age, I've got to be honest, I don't mean to make anyone feel a little bit silly. This is just me, by the way. This is maybe a fault of mine. But I would feel embarrassed. I would personally feel embarrassed buying a modern game, modern day, current gen Mickey Mouse game for me. If it was for someone else, fine. If it was for me, I'd feel a little bit embarrassed going, oh, I've got Mickey Mouse on the PS4. But I don't feel any embarrassment at all. Maybe I should. But I don't feel any embarrassment at all buying this. Because I was a kid when it came out. So it's my kind of era. You know, my nostalgia, my childhood. So it doesn't bother me at all having these kind of games, showing them off and talking about them, buying them and all that kind of stuff. And look at the box, the colour as well. I know I'm biased with like sky blue and all that kind of stuff, but it looks great. So yeah, it's basically just a 2D platformer. You can probably work it out, but I'm sure you know what it's like anyway. And very playable, looks really good, and it's difficult, like a lot of SNES games are, a lot of Mega Drive games, 16-bit games are. It's a platform game, so again, there's elements of that which make it quite difficult and challenging. But overall, very typical kind of 2D cute platformer. Really, really pleased to have it. Now, you're probably asking yourself, Alex, how are you playing these Super Nintendo games? What are you playing them on? Well, a television, obviously, is the answer to that one. But it doesn't just stop there, because I've got this. I am playing my Super Nintendo games, PAL and NTSC, that's Japanese and American, on this system here. Let me show you the box, then I'll show you the thing. It's called a Super Boy, and it's essentially a handheld Super Nintendo. So there's the box, you don't need to see that for too much longer. And here is the actual handheld. This is a PAL cartridge at the top. You probably won't be able to see it, but there's a switch there where you can change between PAL and NTSC. There's a brightness button. Oh, actually, that's underneath with a headphone jack. There's the reset button and a USB there to charge it, which is good. It's battery operated as well, I think, at the back, although there's like a screwdriver in there. What do you call it? What the hell do you call it? Can't remember. Where you put the screwdriver. I'm having a mare here. But yeah, and that's about it. It's pretty simplistic. And then you've got the cartridge, which goes in. It accepts, like I say, either PAL or NTSC. Cool thing about it is it's laid out like an American Super Nintendo controller, if you like, with the colour scheme, with the purple and the grey. That looks really good. But you can also connect two official PAL Super or NTSC controllers. So that's what I've done. I've just took one from my PAL console and I can use that. Now, you don't have to. You can use the D-pad and the buttons up here if you want. But either way, I kind of alternate it, and it's really great, honestly. So if I put it on, it's probably not going to work now. Let me just switch it on. There we go. Is it going to work? Again, ignore all the glare. And this is a PAL game, like I say, working on a handheld. If it was an American game, that would work as well, no problems at all. So basically, it's essentially just a Super Nintendo handheld. It's brilliant. It cost me around about $85, which is approximately 70 quid, 65, 70 quid. So for me, it's fantastic. You can play it in any room, in the bedroom, take it out with you if you want. It's like, who needs a Switch? That's another reason I didn't get a Switch, because I got this. A portable handheld Super Nintendo. Sounds good. It's just a really good game. A really good system. Another really nice feature that I like is this here. As you can probably see, or maybe not actually, it's an AV out. Now it comes with an AV cable. So you basically plug it in there, and then obviously at the other end you've got your AV leads which go into the back of the television, and you can play it on the TV. So you can play it on the TV whilst seeing it on the handheld. It's a really cool bit of kit. Now it's just a handheld, but it's almost blown me away, and it's really making me go back to the SNES more than ever. It's great. I'm using the handheld more than I am playing SNES games on the television, which is absolutely strange, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And then last but not least, because I've just noticed there out of the corner of my eye, I'm playing Firewatch on the Xbox One. Now, Firewatch does have a physical release on the PlayStation 4. I think it's made by those, what do you call them? Oh, Christ, limited run games? I think they're called limited run games. Now, they only, at this moment in time, do PlayStation 4 games. I know they've been trying to do Xbox for quite some time, but they can't seem, for whatever reason, to get in touch with someone at Xbox, which says to me that Microsoft don't want to do it. Because how can you get in touch with the bigwigs at Sony and not get in touch with the bigwigs at Microsoft? So clearly, PlayStation 4 and Sony were happy to do it, and Xbox aren't, which is a bit disappointing. Doesn't bother me, because I've got both systems, but I would, I think, eventually like to get a physical version of Firewatch. So I thoroughly recommend you to check that game out. If you like things like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture on the PlayStation 4, which is kind of like a walking sim. So this is kind of similar to that. You're doing a little bit more, but it's essentially that kind of thing with a storyline, just relatively emotional. It's set in 1989. It's kind of got a bit of a cool retro thing going on to it, sort of, because it's based out in the woods, essentially in the forest. But I'm really liking it, and it was, I think it was on sale on Xbox Live for about $8. I think the retail's like 15 or 20. So really pleased to get it, and maybe one day I'll do a gameplay, but I just urge you to check it out on YouTube. if you've got an Xbox One or PlayStation 4. It's a really good game. Anyway, thanks for watching. Until my next vid, which will be a vinyl vid, either today or tomorrow, then yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Take it easy.